some of the services that are not provided by Skegness County Council, but may be provided by PCC, Lincolnshire County Council, or other organisations.
Okay, item 3 is to answer questions or consider any matters relating to the Skegness Council's annual report. I'm not anticipating too many.
Is the council under further with regards to the consultation on the neighbourhood development plan?
It's no longer under further ended effectively. So,
because residents now.
Oh, for the referendum.
For the referendum, yes.
Yes.
So, because obviously I'm talking on behalf of a member of the public, you know, it's really important that people fully participate as much as possible with regards to this. It is difficult to get our heads around as members of the public, but what this does allow us to do, the council to do, is to take more ownership of planning decisions that could then allow local people to take decisions and the policy to make the decision, where otherwise it would be down to an officer in Horncastle. So, you know, it's really important that we as members of the public get behind this if we want to take a bit more ownership in what gets built and what gets permitted in Skegness. Because, for example, there are key sites in Skegness that used to be residential, like round here, that's obviously now getting, you know, doctors, surgeons, well, dentists, etc., etc. But if you haven't got that local knowledge of where would be appropriate, then you might just get seen as a residential area and then there's something not get done. So yeah, it's really important that we spend the time just to have a look at it. The council as a body can't promote it because they're the ones that are doing it. So only members of the public can kind of do that at this stage. So yeah, that's all I'd like to say really.
What we can do is provide information though. So it's on the website, both the East Lindsey and the Town Council website. So you can read that. If you want a hard copy, we have got hard copies. And again, you can pick one up from the reception during office hours. Reasonably, you know, thick document, but we're happy to give out copies for anybody who wants that, and we can answer questions relating to it. So as officers, we can, if you have questions about it, we can answer those.
If I may come back, but councillors can give their opinion. If you want, you know, if you want some guidance from your councillors, then ask them as to what their opinion is on it, because every single vote is important on that referendum. A councillor is acting as an individual, not as the council, so by all means ask them some questions on what they think that the neighbourhood development plan will do for Skegness.
Okay. Right, item 4. Opportunity for local organisations and residents to speak about the work they are doing in the town. Item 1 is Sergeant Jeff Harrison and Chief Inspector St. Vincent.
Thank you very much. Okay. Hello everybody. I know quite a lot of people in the room, but for those of you that I don't know or haven't met before, I'm Jeff Harrison and I'm a police sergeant with Lincolnshire Police, stationed at Skegness and currently attached to the neighbourhood policing team. So just a little bit about my headlines. 21 years service this year, done a few little different things, 999 response, neighbourhood policing, CID, child protection, custody, and currently neighbourhood policing for the last few years, which is part of your local policing team, which is a problem solving unit. So that's pretty much where I am, so I'll just introduce you to our sector lead, the East Lindsey District Chief Inspector.
Good evening everybody. I know quite a few people in the room already from various different things. So my name is Lee St. Quinton. I'm the Chief Inspector based here in Skegness with the responsibility for the whole of East Lindsey. What we're going to talk to you tonight about is our plans for the summer and going forward, and exactly what we've done this year to prepare in readiness for the summer for all of the tourists that are going to come, but also keep a really close eye on how we're going to protect residents as well from that increase in footfall and increase in demand. So some of you may have seen, we're going to do this as a bit of a double act, and we've not rehearsed it, and certainly going on first. How long we talk, we don't know, but we'll keep it tight. We'll keep it tight. So some of you might have seen the summertime policing plan already around different areas, libraries, public spaces. And the reason why we've put this together is to really look in detail at the demand that gets created through summer. We look very closely at that demand, more than, I'm going to say, what we've ever done in Skegness. So we look for the key offences that are happening, that are causing harm to people visiting, people that come to work here, but also people who are living here. The plan is a direct drop-down from the Chief Constable strategy in Lincolnshire. I'm not going to talk too strategic tonight, but ultimately the Chief tells us what he wants us to do, what he wants us to deliver, and this plan is a direct drop from his plan around what he feels is important to Lincolnshire, and then we've got together as a local team to look at what we think is important to Skegness. It's also a real celebration of the partnerships that we work within as well. So we've worked really closely, and one of the pages towards the back here does actually show the amount of partners we're working with in order to deliver the plan. So Jeff's going to talk in a second about Operation Atlantis, and I won't steal Jeff's thunder, but there's lots of partners in play to deliver that around keeping people safe around our beaches and our water courses. But a lot of the other partners in play, East Lindsey District Council has been very influential on a lot of the initiatives that we run this year, whether it be to do with the car parks or just keeping people safe in those public spaces through their CCTV network. So we work very closely with the LDC. We work closely with Magna Vitae around their provisions. The RLI, which is quite close to my heart, but ultimately the RLI play a big part in keeping people safe, so why wouldn't we combine our efforts with those? So, just going to give you a quick tour of the plan. I'm not going to show the first page, which has got Jeff's picture on, ultimately. But what we are trying to do with this plan is ultimately to work together with all our partners to make the coastal district, so that's not just Skegness, that's right up to past Mablethorpe, North Summer Coast, to make the coastal district the safest place to live, work and visit. There's three areas that we concentrate on. The first one is stop crime and ASB, so antisocial behaviour. So we look very closely at stopping crime and ASB and how we locally can deliver that. We also look at protecting people from harm. Okay, so again, I keep drawing back to it, but that's looking at the resident population and those that come to visit the area as well. And finally, helping those in need. Okay, so that's looking at maybe the vulnerable people who we have in the area and how we can help those. Part of what we're looking at is our nighttime economy. So I think we all know quite locally, Skegness has got quite a big nighttime economy locally, which we know through looking at the data, a lot of our crime can come from that. So we've got to look in detail when we say the crime comes from that, what crime. Then when we look at what crime, we look at where. And we are able to break that down into quite finite degrees really, which allows us to put our offices in the right place at the right time. And that's, I think, something very significant to this year's plan, is we'll be bringing more officers into Skegness in order to support this plan. Now that's normally quite a key question of how many police officers do we have, but there's various models we're putting into place where in summer we will uplift the response teams, so the response team have got more officers. We will bring in specialist resources where we wrap them around the bank holiday weekends, which we all know are going to be the real big weekends where we get the most amount of people. That brings the most amount of crime, the most amount of disorder, and the more opportunities we've got to prevent that crime as well. So there's lots of things going on regarding that staffing model, but ultimately what it does mean is we'll see more officers coming into Skegness to keep people safer, and that's the key message. Prevention is a really key part for us, so a lot of the initiatives that you'll see in this plan are all about Jeff's neighbourhood team that Jeff leads, and looking at how we align the efforts of that neighbourhood team. So everything that Jeff's team are doing really feeds into the plan in about keeping people safe. And if we're doing something different, we ask ourselves why. Because if it's not contributing to that plan, then why are we doing it? What's the objective to why we're trying to deliver that? When we talk about stopping crime, we talk about caravans. And we talk about the crime statistics, which are on police.uk for anybody to view, and people who look at that data will often talk about burglaries, and that causes quite a fear of crime around burglaries and where they happen. Now that perception of a burglary can be people's homes, people's home addresses. Quite often what we see is a massive influx of caravan burglaries. We can see that in the data, we can see when, and we can see the common areas and the common sites. So again, that's allowed us to develop an initiative which comes off the back of one of our caravan watch schemes, where we can work with the site holders and the caravan owners direct and look to try and offer that security advice as a basic approach, but also other measures to try and catch offenders when things do go wrong. A key operation that we're doing this year, which has got many different partners connected, is Operation Atlantis. So before I say any more on it, this is a really fantastic bit of work by Jeff's team. So probably pertinent for me to hand over, Jeff.
Thank you, Ross. So Operation Atlantis is our local response to dealing with missing children. And as you can imagine, in the summer with the influx of holidaymakers, our calls for service around missing children and vulnerable adults literally go through the roof. And any parents or grandparents amongst us will know, if ever they've lost the child for a couple of seconds or a few minutes, the horror that comes with that is unexplainable. So when we get that call in that there's a missing 4-year-old on the beach, then that's an imminent 999 call, and it's literally everybody down tools, all hands to the deck. To the extent we have departments coming out from all directions. We've had CID out in their suits last summer, the Protecting Vulnerable Persons team, uniform response, and until we've got that child safe, we need to work really hard between us. Of course, that includes all our partners, the RNLI, the LDC, Coast Watch, and just having that coordinated approach to finding somebody's loved little one and get them reunited. So as part of that piece of work, there's 2 phases. Phase 1 is the prevention measure, and there was a concept that was invented by a PCSO in Norfolk in 2014, a PCSO Sandy Greenacre, and she invented a concept of sandy starfish. Quite a simple idea. So a number of trendy wristbands were manufactured, and there was community engagements delivered, inviting all parents to get the kiddie to pick a trendy coloured wristband, put parents' phone numbers on, and hopefully get them reunited very quickly.
Starfish.
Sandy starfish. That's the one. So some of our local businesses and people might be aware. So we've got a range of different styles and colours that the children can pick from. We're just doing some work around some more environmentally friendly bands as we speak, and hopefully they'll be going out anytime soon. So along with that, we're trying to educate people early doors. The beach is a fun place to be, but the last thing we want is for you, that report coming in, that we saw our 4-year-old half an hour ago, because the consequences, we don't need to say any more about that. We've got a fabulous bit of kit of Skegness to support us with that now, which is our UTV, our off-road terrain vehicle, or better known as a beach buggy. And that's just done such amazing work, and I'm aware that it's saved at least one life, because I've been involved in an incident where there was a little girl that was stranded towards Gibraltar Point. Tide was coming in, and we managed to get there very, very quickly, using the UTV, which we wouldn't have done had we not had the facility. So that's great. So phase 2 is physically going out looking for the missing people that we've talked about briefly, and just utilising those partners to give us some support in terms of numbers to find them. And of all elements of policing, the reward when you take a 4-year-old back to the parents, there's nothing like it. Because, you know, there's those very rare occasions that the news has been much sadder than that. But hopefully the strategy we've got in place is going to support moving forward to keep our young people safe. So that's really the headlines of Sandy Starfish that we're deploying all through summer. We're going to have a number of community engagements set up sort of towards the lifeboat centre, different areas of the coast, Ingamells, Mablethorpe, and the Sandy Starfish banners will be presented in different parts of the town, which will encourage people to head for as a meeting point should they get lost, so we can support getting them reunited. And that's my bit, thank you. Anything else from you, sir?
I'll just wrap up. We've got a number of copies here. They are about in the community. I just invite you to read it, have a look at it. There's a number of problems that we target, a number of initiatives in here. If there's anything you feel we're missing, then we're really receptive to you telling us that. Tell us what we are missing, tell us what the problems are. Come and speak to us at the number of engagements predominantly Jeff's team does. And the plan is to make us better next year. So, you know, this is the plan for this year, and I expect we can improve on it for next year and the year after as well. So please come and speak to us, tell us what we're missing if you feel that's the case. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
During the summertime, the difference between winter and summer obviously, the crime rate, what does the crime rate go up by between, say, April to October? The influx of crime is usually coming from other part towns, not Skegness. And it gives Skegness about 9% crime rate, but it isn't. So what are the numbers of difference between here in summer and winter?
That's the right person, hasn't it, Jeff? So from a data perspective then, so from a summer period, so the incident demand that we get as an organisation goes up by 37%. Okay. So it's a 37% increase for incident demand, and crime demand is 29% that comes up with that. So we're talking roughly a third of increased demand. So we've got to match that with our resources, but also make sure our partners as well are geared up to deal with that increase. So those are the two sort of headline figures that we kind of work with. We do drill down even further into separate crime types that are linked to the nighttime economy, so we can look at exactly where those offences are taking place. We look very carefully at domestic abuse, and we look at the data of domestic abuse, and we look at how much of that is local. And throughout the summer, it's around 55% is local residents, and 45% roughly is visitors to the area. We've identified a number of hotspots where we can then really try and work in those areas to try and prevent, but also be in the right place at the right time when it does happen. So we do have a good handle on that. It's quite interesting, the data. I think.
Thank you.
Thank you. Eddie?
Yeah, thank you for the update and quite interesting figures. What I would like to ask you, I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable with this one, but would you say that the crime figures reflect the actual figures of unreported crime relating to antisocial behaviour and petty crime? Because quite often you can talk to residents and they will say to you, there's no point ringing the police. And you get that quite a lot, and I don't know how many other people get that, or whether you get that yourself in your own social life being officers, that people would say to you, "Oh, I didn't bother reporting it, it's not worth it." So would you say that those actual crime figures are significantly close, or would you say they're quite out from actual crimes that should be reported? Awkward one, I know.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like an honest answer if you could.
It's one of those scenarios that, how do you know what you don't know? It's a very challenging question in the sense of we can only work with what we've got, with the evidence we've got. But, you know, I've been around 21 years in the police, I have heard that before. But we consistently encourage people to report because it just helps us gather that evidence to look at where the hotspots are, look at what resourcing we need to invest into a particular area. So I probably can't answer it honestly or openly. It goes on without doubt, you know, and sometimes the fear of crime can be worse than the actual crime. People are worried about something happening, but the facts say it's not happening. You know, things like that. You walk home on a dark night and you're worried you might get attacked, but there's been no attacks on that street for the last 5 years. So sometimes there can be a perception issue as well. So it's probably subjective that, you know, you may think it's probably worse than the police report, or the next person might think it's about right. I think there is a slight disparity, but it probably isn't a million miles away.
I'll come off the back, I'll try to come off the back of the ledger. I think as an organisation, centrally, certainly out of headquarters, they're trying to be as accessible as possible. So people can communicate with the police service now, you know, using Facebook. You know, we have a single online home database now where people can report crimes online. So we use more on social media more than ever, different platforms, different engagements face to face. We do encourage people to report, and we see. I think the media. I appreciate Chris is sat here, but the media has a lot to do with the confidence in reporting as well. And one of my background is PDP, protecting vulnerable people, which is a lot of sexual crime. And when we see that positive reporting around certainly that type of crime area, and maybe a TV programme could spout something off as well, and it has done, that really helps us give people confidence in not just the police processes, but the wider criminal justice process, that actually there's a lot of wraparound support for victims of crime, and certainly certain victims of crime. And I think that gives people that reassurance that it's worth reporting, because, you know, we can offer so much support with our partners to try and give that wraparound support. So we do try our best. I won't say we get everything, if you want an honest answer. Do we get everything? No. Do we want it? Absolutely we do. So we do try our best, and we want to be as accessible as we can, really. Is that acceptable?
Yeah, it's fine. I knew what my answer's going to be. It's just not to put you on the spot, because obviously people do feel like they don't, but encouraging people, no matter how small, no matter the relevance, if you think there's a potential, they should report it. Yes. So that's where I'd like to do it. Thank you.
Just a bit of feedback with regards to the online forms specifically. Yes, I know that's come about and can report online, but there are less questions doing car insurance than it is filling out that form. The amount of specific detail, it literally takes half an hour, which is probably how long it may take to call a contact centre, I don't know. But that's a little bit, a point that I think could be taken forward. It needs to be much more streamlined for people to have confidence. Now, coming back to that, your main response is to do with public confidence of being able to report stuff and things like that. I think it's really important to note that the demonstrations that we've had, we've seen a huge confidence in police presence during those events, which is obviously essential. Rolling roadblocks and all that sort of stuff. Because there was businesses putting their shutters up and things like that, and fear of the unknown, which is obviously half the problem. But what I feel a little bit disappointed with personally is that if we talk about police confidence and presence and community buy-in, how come we can't get any sort of support for community events like a remembrance parade? When there's a series of people who may cause harm, there's 50 police officers rolling roadblocks, but when it comes to a community activity of remembrance, there's nothing.
Okay, so I think the way to address that is, if I turn this around a bit and say, if we've got all this information that we have lots of people coming into the town, visitors, not local people, who have extreme views, and I'm sure you understand, I'm not going to talk too specifically about this, but we monitor the intelligence around individuals, networks that these people are part of, and we monitor that intelligence very closely. If we are aware of that information and that risk to shops, the local residents, we are duty bound to act. And I've had other feedback. There's too many police. That's one feedback I had as well. Why is there so many police? What I would say for people who own the shops, if your windows got put through and there was Jeff and a PCSO stood there, what would you be telling me today? You'd be telling me you didn't police the property. You didn't put enough police officers on. So there is a very careful risk assessment that goes with any event, and I know we were talking about it recently, but any event like a protest march, we've got to look at who's coming, what their motives are, what do we know about those people, and we know quite a lot about people. The intelligence recently was about a left-wing attendant who wanted to be present against the more right-wing. So then we have a flashpoint. So how do we protect, and this is what this is about, this is about how do we protect the local people, the visiting people, and try and do the best by everybody. But we don't have infinite resources, and I know the police are constantly saying that, so we've got to be really careful about where we do put our officers to make sure that we're spending taxpayers' money correctly, and it is all based on risk. It's absolutely based on risk. So, because I don't want to pay another time to cops, Jeff will probably tell you I'm quite tight, and I am, but I don't want to spend a penny of taxpayers' money unless we absolutely have to, and that risk assessment warrants it. But coming back to your question, so I don't avoid it, which is the ceremonial cell event. I've marched with it before, before. Kate's often there, if you're not there. I think, I'd like to say we do, and I think Jeff, you hopefully agree with me, that we do form part of that as an organisation. We are part of that parade. I've certainly been part of it over the years in one capacity or another. I don't know if your question was around like the marshalling element of it or part of it. What was the
Particularly was with regards to not having or able to marshal it in any sort of way, or because it's literally talking such a minuscule.
Yeah.
So the amount of public positivity that might could be investment of resources.
So again, we've got to be really careful where we put our cops, because if I provide 10 cops to do that, that's 10 crimes not getting investigated or attended. And it is a real balance of what's needed and where that risk is. So generally, like a remembrance parade will be privately marshalled, but if I put it back to the protest, is it safe for us to ask for people, local people, to marshal a protest? I don't think I feel safe doing it. So it is a real balance, and if we had a cupboard full of cops we could pull out, we use our special constabulary quite well, but it's a real balance of where we put them, and it's not an easy game of chess, I can assure you.
PD.
Hello. My question is regarding like the vulnerable children and adults. I've noticed around the country there's schemes that the police have set up with like ID badges or notifications about people with special needs. I'm with Carers First, and one of their aims is to try and get the police and special emergency services to do you notify about people with special conditions like autism or deafness? Is on doing something about that? Is there a scheme that vulnerable people could join or have cards or something to be recognised? They're out on their own, wandering around parks and it isn't up to them. Is there a way of you being able to identify that these have got special needs? Is that possible?
First, yeah, right. John, I've been on time already. There you go.
So we have recently rolled out a programme around dementia wristbands. So a colleague, PCSO Barnaby Prince, developed an idea. I think it's similar to what you're suggesting. So it's a wristband made with a microchip built in. So that goes on the person's wrist, and we can program that with the next of kin's details, phone number, and all relevant family information should they get lost, go missing, or not understand where they are. So if they are found, it can be scanned with a smartphone, and that will automatically give the details and the identity. So that is now currently live. It's quite a new scheme, but it does also have the potential to be developed into the other areas which you're suggesting. And it doesn't have to be a wristband, it can be a credit card style or a necklace. There's lots of options out there. We've just started with the wristband facility.
No, I was going to say exactly the same.
So it's out there, it's new technology, so it's all just moving forward as we speak. Well, element phase 1 is live, and early indications are extremely successful.
And you can access them on the website.
But it's very different than some, I don't know if anybody's heard of things like Apple AirTags. So there, or if you've got an iPhone, you could have an app that says Find My Phone. So if your loved one is somewhere and you don't know, you can look on the app. However, for the police, that causes a significant game changer if you are tracking somebody. Because for the police to track somebody, there's lots and lots of legislation, what we call regulatory of investigatory powers authority, which needs superintendent authority, which needs lots of evidence, and it's a game changer for us as a public office to start tracking people. Whereas the dementia band has just got somebody's details on and next to patient behind it.
Would you be considering for the deaf, for some of the children who can't communicate properly with that, would you sort of give back sign language to the children?
Yeah, it's all doable. We haven't hit that place yet as a local policing team, but any good ideas like that, we're certainly interested in developing and taking forward with your support and the support of our partners or people that have got that inside knowledge or ideas how to develop it. We're all ears. We can all get around the table and crash it out.
We have just launched through our course control room, if somebody rings up who wants to talk in British Sign Language or Makaton, where we can put them through to an online visual Teams meeting, or Skype meeting, whatever you use, and therefore we can take their report of crime, their emergency, using VSL or Makaton. And that's something quite new we've just brought in actually.
Thank you. So,
the issue of drugs and the availability of drugs and where they're coming from, or known drug dealers, holiday makers bringing drugs to the resort, does that contribute to the antisocial behaviour, or is it more drink related? And what is being done to curb the drug usage around the holiday areas? Because somebody said to me the other day, there's some places that they won't go because you can actually smell it, the use. Could some dogs be brought in, drug sniffer dogs, a bit of a cleaning up effort so that people might think twice about bringing drugs to an area where it's basically a seaside area and children are involved?
I'm looking through the book, sorry I can't see you here, so I'll move across, but I'm looking through the book to rattle through what we're doing about drugs. I'll do this in order. So people travelling ultimately with drugs, using vehicles. So we're running dedicated drink drive stop checks. We've run 2 already. On each evening we've run them, we've stopped in the region of 90 cars per evening. And that is for random, routine breathalyzers that we all know, but we also have drug wipes now as well. We can just drug wipe, and it will come back within 3 minutes now? 3 minutes, and it will tell us if that person is using drugs and driving, which creates its own separate risk to us all driving vehicles. So that's when they're coming, okay? We're using our central ops team, which is our traffic cars, as we know, the souped-up Volvos and BMWs that they have. And our central ops team are doing what they call an Optifine. Now, an Optifine is an APR operation, so it's looking at automatic number plates on the arterial roads where they'll then do those breathalyzers, where they'll do those drug wipes as well. And so I'm mentioning that because this is about stopping the people we don't want coming in. Okay? We don't want people coming in. I live here as well. I'm not just brought in for fun. I live here, so it's my best interest as well to make sure I don't want people coming past Gumby that we don't want here. And if they're bringing drugs, we don't want them here. So lock them up, turn them around, send them back, because we don't want people in town of that nature. When people come here, what are we doing? There's an operation listed in here called Operation California, and that is about a drugs itemiser operation. Okay, so we work very closely with the LDC to achieve this, and we have a number of itemiser machines where people coming into venues, and we look for the key venues where we think people may be using drugs. We get the licensees on board, which are very pro, and whilst people are queuing up to get in or just transiting in, as a condition of entry, we will wipe their hands, similar like an airport. If you've ever been swabbed at an airport, exactly the same technology, and it will give us that trace detection of drugs. Now that's generally, you've got to be very careful with stop search legislation, but that's generally enough to give us that indication that this person may be carrying drugs. So as they enter our venues, we're checking to see if they've got drugs on them. Okay? Dogs, you mentioned dogs, so let me address that. We do have drugs dogs that we can utilise, and we have brought them into the town. But we've got to be very quite careful talking about the tactics, because when we deploy them, we've got to be very careful where we deploy them and how. But it is an option available to us this summer.
Do you personally think, as in your line of duty, that the punishment for the drug dealers is enough for the havoc that it can actually cause to people's lives and children's lives should they get hold of any of these drugs? Do you think the punishment is fitting? That when you do catch them, is it just a slap on the wrist and a little fine and release them back out again, and they earn millions of pounds in money?
So it depends what drug is what I would say. So low level, obviously drugs are graded, CBA, and the sentencing guidelines that ultimately the government pass down to the courts. So it's not, we don't, as a police service, we don't determine sentencing. We're quite well removed from sentencing. We gather the evidence, we present that evidence. The courts then find people guilty or not guilty, and then they determine the sentence based on sentencing guidelines set by the government. The question was, do we think it's enough? I'll give you an honest answer. Sometimes I do. My background as well is CID, where I've dealt with a number of drug dealers. Have we had some very good results on people? Yes. Have I been disappointed? Yeah, at times as well. So it's mixed. It depends on the amount of drugs, it depends on the intention that we can prove through looking through different devices. We run lots of different operations around Skegness, and Skegness is no different to the attention it gets as a county. So yeah, we do try and promote what we're doing, and what I would say is keep looking in the press, because we do have lots of things on the go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank our two police officers.
I do exist, Mr. Mayor. I did put my hand up several times and you've ignored me. So, can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Thank you. The starfish thingies you had out last year, the wristbands, 100% success, by the way. I have actually got them on my place and we gave quite a lot out. You also had another one running at the same time, which was a little bell for the, let's say the little old ladies, to put on the purses. They went really well and then it stopped. I know it's down to funding, but I've been asked several times, can they still get these little bells from the police station or anywhere to put on the purses? The idea was, you must know about it, or other people, they attached it to their purse or wallet or whatever you wanted. If somebody tried taking it, they'd hear the bell ring. They was 100% success last time you had them, like the wristbands last year. Can we have it back?
I'll take that way as an action. I can't see why not, as long as we can get funding for it. And there's different pots round and about. So there's no bells left at Skegness Police Station because they all got used up. So it's something we'll have to look at.
I know you ran out several times when you had them, and every week we're getting asked for them. You know, are they coming back? Can we have them? Where can we get them from? If we could get them, I'd get them myself because they were that successful. I must have given over 200 out, you know. So it was a good thing.
I shall look into it and update you in due course.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again. Yeah, I think you've done a brilliant job. You didn't know anything about questions and answers, but it's pumped that way. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Amanda Ridings.
My name is Amanda. I'm called two heads on tonight, unfortunately. So I'm the R&I Technology Coordinator for the East of Midlands. So I provide sort of three areas. So we work with local partners, which is here, which is in Lindsay. We also look to provide volunteers to people that possibly could be becoming digitally excluded. And then the third, we support R&I helpline to answer people's questions on a daily basis. So tonight's head is on behalf of my colleague James Hassel, and he is the Community Connection Coordinator. We've all got very long titles for the East Midlands, and what he's asked me to say a few things on his behalf, because unfortunately he's unable to make it. So first of all, he's asked to thank Kate and the staff at the cafe for their welcome support over the last year, and that they fluctuated on numbers within the community group. They're just picking up now. But Kate and the staff here have been absolutely great with them, and anything that we need or he needs, they're there for him. Okay. So James, he offers a monthly Community Connect meeting where he is able to provide a range of activities or experiences or provide information that is available locally. So I call him the oracle, you know, because he's the one that knows anything or everything that is available in the area. So if somebody's new to a vision loss or a diagnosis, or friends or families or a carer, he's the one person that you can go to. So that's a good point. And recently I started to use him as well as the technology support for the area. Technology is something that we struggle with in the Lincolnshire area. You know, overall as an organisation we struggle with volunteers to provide technology support. But every day I get calls from customers that are becoming digitally excluded for no reason, no fault of their own. So we're having to look at different ideas. So recently myself and James have come up with the idea of a partnership together. So his local Community Connect group now will offer technology support. So anybody that has an iPad or a phone or an Android phone is able to go along to him, and he will help try and set them as they are needed for them. And if he can't do it, he can give me a phone call, and It just happens I'm only 2 minutes up the road, so any chance for a cake and a coffee, I'm more than happy to join in. But James has had something that has been absolutely promising. He recently organised a fishing trip with a local organisation called On Track Fishing, and now that's going from strength to strength. They've now become the third Anglian charity to be supported by British Blind Sport, and they're a local based charity as well. Originally they set out for people with mental health difficulties, but we approached him, and it's something now that that's gone from strength to strength. So that's something quite good. Also, what James has also asked is that if anybody, locally, a business or anything, needs support in sighted guidance training or visual awareness training, that he's support the call, that he's happy to help you or advise you in any way possible. Just as myself, if you need any technology advice or support locally, I'm always here. I'm based in town. I'm more than happy to help. I think that's me. I'll leave a couple of leaflets here. I don't know where. But I think that is me. But thank you for the invite. Thank you.
Thanks, Amina.
Any questions?
Any questions? No?
That's why
You've got to wait.
skip that one. Quick.
On the crime.
Well, good evening everyone. I'm Norman Prime, I'm the Secretary for the Skegness Silver Band, which is the town's brass band. And for the last 115 years it's been entertaining residents and visitors to the Skegness and to the nearby and villages. And last year we had a busy year, as well as 4 times in the bandstand, which a lovely picture comes up shortly, on Sunday afternoon, for which we're very grateful to the Town Council for. Apart from that, we've also played at fetes, festivals and done concerts in nearby areas. For example, Sutton-on-Sea, Willoughby, Wrangle, and so on. And at Christmas, we had quite a busy time. We played at the Skegness Christmas Market. We played outside Tesco's for a couple of days to support the Skegness Rotary Club's Christmas collection for their working causes. We played the Masons Christmas event. We played Carols and Trustall. And on Christmas Eve, a very nice afternoon and early evening, playing at Butlins for entertaining their guests. So within the band, there are players of all ages. We have children at school, and we have quite old people. I think I'm the oldest, but it's a big range of ages, and we have all walks of life. And roughly equal numbers of men and women, which you might think, well, what about it? But if you go back maybe 20, 30 years, you didn't see many women in the brass band. And now in Skegness Silver Band, it's equal numbers, and indeed the whole of the front row cornet section, our flugelhorn and our solo are all women. And in fact, what we mean in just about every section in the band. And I don't know if it's because we've got a lot of women, but we've got a wonderful family atmosphere in the band. It really is a pleasure to go along with it. we've had a number of new players over the year, and some of them are returning after years of not being in the band. They've come back and they're joining us again. And we always welcome people that are interested in joining the band, coming along to our practices on a Monday evening. In March this year, we took part in the Midlands area brass band competition, and that's the first time we've taken part in the competition since before the COVID pandemic. As the name implies, it really is the whole Midland area, so it includes a lot of those towns that had quarries. The quarries now, they still got the bands that were created by the quarries, and it's a very, very good banding area. So we were pleased to come 7 out of 15 in our section. The band continues its association with the Skegness Grammar School. So this project, a little over 18 months ago, where some members of the Skegness Silver Band go along to the Skegness Grammar School's band to their rehearsals after school on a Thursday. And we help them with their playing. We hope that we can bring them on. So we also help with their concerts. And last June, the school band and the town band joined together to play at the British Theatre Dance Association Gala Parade. That's a parade they have at the end of a couple of weeks of dance training at Butlins. And they have this long parade, I think it's a couple of thousand teenagers that have been practicing dancing, and we lead the parade. And it's a very, very enjoyable experience for the players and the dancers. To bring us up to date, we were able to support local coronation celebrations. So on Sunday, that's the day after the coronation, we played at Croft, outside the village hall, for their fete. It was a really lovely fete. They had a roasting hog, they had sort of traditional fete games, tea, cakes, and the brass band. It was a lovely sunny afternoon. Someone described it as a really charming afternoon. It was nice. And then the following day, on Monday, we played in the fields, furlong fields, they're called, at Sutton-on-Sea. It was the end of their 3 days of festivals, and we played a concert in the evening in a large marquee. The weather was pretty awful, but there was nothing behind in the marquee for some audience, and it was a nice way to finish their festivities. And just mention that next Saturday we're playing at Dobson's Mill Heritage Centre at Burley Marsh, and they've just had all the work done. They're officially opened their granary display area, and we're playing there from 1:45 to 4 o'clock. Finally then, in August, the band travelled to Bad Gandersheim, that's our twin town in Germany, for their garden festival. It's quite a big thing for them. It's running from April through to October, and they're expecting in the region of 500,000 to 1 million visitors over that period. And the band is playing in the last week of August in what they call the British Week. And we're playing lots of venues around the town. We last went there 9 years ago. We had absolutely wonderful time, really well looked after by the Twinning Association there. And I think we had a wonderful time this year too. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Right, next one is Be Inspired. Town clerk, please.
So Be Inspired is a community group, community craft group that meets here in this hall. Over there you can see some of the work that they did for the coronation. So something that's been on display here for a couple of weeks. really lovely stuff. And they've also done other craft stuff for us. I've got a report which has come from Angela, who's one of the founding members and who can't be here. So I'll read out her report. She's asked me to do that. So good evening to you all. Firstly, may I profess my sincere apologies for my absence at this evening's meeting. This is due to unavoidable problems with transport. Our craft group initially began in September 2020 with myself and one other lady, Linda, who has since sadly passed away. After 3 sessions, 4 other ladies joined us, and slowly our little group began to expand. Unfortunately, due to COVID restrictions, we were locked down in November 2020 and didn't re-establish until May 2021. An open day was held in July 21, hosted by the council to make the community aware of our presence. And as a result of this PR exercise, we gained a few more members. Slowly and steadily, which has always been the best way, we now stand at 20 plus members. We needed to name to the group to represent what we stand for within the community, and permission was kindly given by Skegness Council to do this. A vote was taken and the name Being Inspired was chosen. We collectively thought that the name was apt, as the bee is the symbol of the worker bee, working steadfastly for its own community. The bee never stops working and we never stop crafting. We are a very mixed group, and it's not just the ladies. Any well-behaved man is welcome to join. Joking apart, I'm very pleased to report that 2 young people aged 16 and over have joined us over the past few months. And indeed, one young man informed his support worker that out of all of the groups he attends, the Monday afternoon group, which is the craft group here, is his favourite. After hearing this, we felt very touched and proud, as we do care for our younger members and are thrilled that they enjoy their time with us. With us, the more mature members. Our age range is now 16 to mid-80s. I've got my glasses on. I and many members firmly believe that every individual who comes through the door has a talent or skill. Sometimes it's very hidden, and the person concerned can be very underconfident, stating that they're no good at anything and couldn't possibly create anything. Over time they do, and it's very rewarding to observe their confidence and skills evolving. In order to be a proactive group and assist our community, we have taken under our busy wings the Derbyshire or Children's Holiday Home. When time permits, we make and donate cuddly toys to the children who may be a little homesick. We have warm lap blankets, colourful black quilts for snuggling under in the TV room of an evening, and fiddle toys for children who have difficulty in settling down and keeping calm. We were thrilled to visit the home and had a guided tour in July 2022. We were all very impressed by the welcome and nurturing environment, and quite frankly, we would love a week there ourselves. Our work continues. The hall at Tower Gardens is modern, warm, with good lighting, which is much needed for close, detailed work, and we all appreciate it. Not to forget the friendly, hard-working team of lovely ladies in the cafe who keep our energy up with tasty snacks, delicious homemade cakes, good strong tea and coffee. It's a given within the crafting community that tea and coffee and cakes are essential aids to creativity. Looking ahead, one of our members used to be a member of a rock choir, and I did suggest that maybe we can sing while we work. Song sheets were distributed last Monday, and our first attempt was hilarious. Obviously there is much room for improvement, but who knows where this will lead. We socialise outside the group on occasions, and friendships have been made. In addition to this, we have begun to support each other, as life can be hard at times. In this respect, I'm very proud, and this group has evolved become much more than just a craft group. The last meeting attended fell on a bank holiday, and we were a little thin on the ground in respect of numbers, attending due to family visiting, etc. But I asked all members present for a little feedback on the group, and it's important for every member to have a voice and be heard. The feedback is as follows. I love it, friendly and helpful, teaches me and other people different crafts. That's from Glenda. Same as the above, and it gets you out. That's I'm crocheting again, and I've made lots of new friends. It's brought my daughter out of her shell a little. That's from Tammy. Wouldn't miss it for the world, Heather. It's a lovely way to meet new friends, especially if you're feeling lonely, Yvonne. It takes you away from the norm, Tracy. It gets you out to socialise and make new friends, Jean. And finally, I love it. I'm over the moon, Florence. On that high note, I wish the Town Council and our Mayor a very pleasant and positive meeting with sincere and grateful thanks to you from myself and all of Be Inspired. That's from Angela, the group founder and leader.
Thanks for that, Steve. Please get them while we go off there in the one.
Will do.
Mandy Elmer.
Hello, good evening everybody. My name is Mandy Elmer. I'm the area officer for the LCDS, which is the Leadership Community Contact Service. We have two arms in EastNS. We have quite a number of social prescribers actually funded through the PCN, actually funded them, but we manage them. The social prescribers are a team who work with the doctors' surgeries, and the idea is some people who are isolated, keep referring themselves to the doctors, make appointments, but actually a lot of it is to do with their kind of mental health issues, isolation issues. So we have a team who go in and they work with the individuals, bring them out into the community. So the idea is they would link them in with the life group. So we have a team, we work actively in STEMS and in Extending. And we are reducing the number of appointments which are being made at the doctor's surgery. So, we're quite happy with that. The second part of our organisation, we are area officers, and that's myself, and we work with voluntary services. So we work with Rotary Service for volunteers. We often get people, volunteers who come to us not knowing really what they want to give something back to the community, but maybe they're feeling a little less confident. So the idea is that we use the bit of we do a lot of work with the job centres, because the job centres often find that actually a lot of their clients aren't work ready, so they refer to us and we make them volunteer ready, which actually builds up their skills so they will get back into the workplace. We also offer group support for groups which enables them to develop. So we offer advice on things like scientific funding. So say somebody comes to us, somebody recently has come to us about wanting to set up a walking rugby group, how do they go about doing it? So we would actually talk to them about how we set up a committee, how you set around the governance, status you should be, advice on your bank account, where you get the funding from, and we continue to do this. So I think that's all about it. Anybody got any questions? No? Okay, I've got some. Oh, yes.
If the group's not got a bank account, do you still offer a service where you could sort of use your bank account to put the funding in and things like that?
In certain circumstances, sometimes we've had like town councils who have actually awarded a group money where they haven't had a bank account. So we have held it till they've been able to get a bank account. So yes, we can do it. I've got a number of leaflets here.
Thanks for that, everybody. Thank you. Bob Walker.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen, Bob Walker, I'm Chairman of the Skegness Chamber of Commerce. Feeding on from last year's minutes and things that I said, that we were having a project to put on Expo 23, which we did this year in February, which we held at Southie Park Hotel, which replaced the old Caterex, which normally would have been at Richmond, but because they were taken over, they were doing a lot of work, so we had to find a new venue. But it was a very successful event. I would say the majority of the exhibitors enjoyed themselves and did some good business as well. And basically so much so that we have been asked to come up with dates again for next year, which we're now looking at, but we're looking to see whether or not we go back to the same venue or whether we look for somewhere slightly bigger, possibly get some more stalls in accordingly. Because we had 29 stalls at Southview, ranging from printing to solicitors to accountants, bingo supermarket. Literally there was bits of everything, furnishings, uniforms, the whole spectrum in that respect. So it covered a great area, and as I said, it was very successful. One thing we're doing for this year, we've decided to resurrect the Chamber Skegness Business Awards, which we've lost for the last couple of years because of COVID, etc. So that's something we're busy working on at the moment, deciding on categories and judging and things of that sort at the moment. As soon as we have that organised, which will be later in the year, basically we normally start advertising around July, etc. And then the judging is normally September, October, ready for the annual dinner that we have in November. And as soon as we've got all the information, we will be putting an announcement out together. As a chamber, we are very aware of the poor situation that all businesses have find themselves in at the moment due to the cost of living crisis, the high cost of energy, etc. We do sympathise with them all, and we are looking at what areas that we as the chamber can try and help, and that's something we are looking into in that respect. But one thing I will say, that after Easter, the Schooner Rally and the Coronation Weekend, I'm very optimistic about the future of the business community in Skegness. All these weekends brought in lots of visitors and definitely boosted the morale and hopefully to some extent their businesses. And it was great to see so many people out and about and people enjoying themselves, and luckily the majority of it was good weather, so we got away with it well. And last but not least, basically just like to say, I'm looking forward to a good, hopefully very busy season to come. But also on top of that, I'd like to say, come on Skegness, let's rise above all these problems that we've got, and let's go forward and show the world what Skegness is made of. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Any questions? Any questions?
If I could just raise one point, Bob, about the, you hit the nail on the head when you said the word Caterex.
Yeah.
I think you need to use that a little bit more, because I spoke to people who supply in the area. Expo means so much to them, whether it's in London or anything. And I think Caterex does what it says on the tin, and it starts us off to a good season. So I think in the advertising, in some way, you just need to push that Caterex side.
So we will look at certainly no problem at all.
Yeah. Any further questions? No? Thanks, Bob. Any other local organisation want to speak?
Hi, my name's Caroline. I wasn't expecting to speak tonight, so I do apologise if I'm not as coherent as all the other wonderful speakers. I'm a scout leader in Skegness, first Skegness Scout Group. We actually meet in this wonderful building every week, so we're really lucky with that. We have a small campsite in Spilsby, which unfortunately has been out of action for the last 6 months. We've had a leak in the roof, so our roof's collapsed. And we built on an old dump, and the culvert underneath has the pipes in there have collapsed as well, so our land's sinking, and we have big ponds appearing either side of our campsite. So unfortunately we've not been able to camp as much as scouts should be camping, but what we do encourage our scouts to do is to volunteer. And they've probably seen them out and do a lot of litter picking around the town and around the parks and these local roads around here on a Tuesday night. And we've also been volunteering for the past couple of years helping out with the Skegness Carnival, which has been quite close to our hearts. So we've been putting up the stalls, taking down the stalls. This weekend we attended with some of our leaders and our old scouts to help out with the coronation event in the park. We attended a carnival meeting about 6 to 7 weeks ago where we were informed that the current carnival event planners were unfortunately stepping down due to their own commitments in their family lives and work and one thing and another. And we were informed that that would be the end of the carnival. There was not going to be a carnival parade this year. There wasn't going to be the 999 event day, which is always a very favourite amongst my own children. So myself and Janet Boltby over there, who's our treasurer for us cats, decided we could not let that happen. And we've taken on the role as the event organisers for this year's carnival. Due to our own commitments and family issues this year, it is going to be a much scaled down event. We will just be doing the carnival parade and the fun day in the park on the Sunday the 13th, and then on the Wednesday we'll be having the 999 day. We're hoping next year, once we get ourselves more organised, we will reintroduce the baby show, the pet show, sandcastle competition, the pavement art. We're hoping to have, so I'm looking at Janet to get my head, hoping to have a children's talent competition one night, which I'm going to speak to Dee Dee about, because she was actually pretty interested in that. So hopefully next year we'll get a lot more involved and have a good full week again. Obviously, there is a lot to prepare. We've got our heads around the event plan, we know what we're doing with all the legal stuff and all the rules and regulations. The biggest problem, like everything else, is the funding. We do know we need about £8,500 to get the parade going. I mean, the road closures alone are £3,500. We do have all the equipment to do it ourselves, but none of us have the training to show the roads. We will be having to send that out to management people to do the road for us. So we are looking for that £8,500. We have got some already, we have got some sponsorship. We've been speaking to some people tonight, Barry and some others, that have been giving us some great ideas who to contact, where to go for that. But if anybody else in the room, I mean, I know a lot of the faces, if anybody else knows any ideas, know where to go, if you have any ideas about the carnival, anything else you want to help us with, or not just sponsorship and money, but advice, and you know, you might have some skill sets that we don't, we'd be very grateful for that. Any questions about Scouts or carnival? No? Okay.
Does anybody else wish to speak?
Very good.
Speak up, Dee Dee.
I'm sorry. Right. Hello. I know I'm I should be able to do this.
You're on stage,
I wasn't
the Queen.
I'm on stage. I wasn't expecting to speak tonight, but for those who do know me, I'm Dee Dee Lee. That's my stage name. I come from a long line of family entertainers that come back from, that lived in Skegness, Red Stamper. So I go back quite a long time in history. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that was involved with the King's coronation. I was asked to join their working group as being the stage entertainment manager and compere and one of the entertainers. I worked with all the entertainers that took part on the day, and they thoroughly enjoyed the show and are willing to come back to do any other events that might be organised in Skegness. Like I said, I was really honoured to be able to be part of this. I could have been in London, I could have done lots of other shows, I've done lots of other shows with and for the Royal Family, but as my roots are here in Skegness, I decided to stay in Skegness and try and promote and make their mark of history for us and for the rest of the community. Thank you again.
Thanks, Dee Dee. Thank you. Right, item 5 on your agenda, opportunity for residents in Skegness to raise matters relating to the town. Anybody wishing to speak? Yes.
It's a good thing, we're looking at our gardens there, I just wanted some things that's not been done, and I don't know why. First of all, the artificial waterfall, I know we've had trouble with the pump in the past, but it's not been working for over a year now, it's static. And the pathway to the bridge, that's...
Can I just stop you there, because it's not item 6 on the agenda.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Okay. Anybody else wishing to raise anything? Okay, we'll move to item 6. Consultation on the town's fund project of Tower Gardens.
You want me to?
Yes, please.
So this afternoon we started consultation on Tower Gardens Towns Fund project. So the council has been awarded £500,000 to do work in Tower Gardens, which will involve improvements, improved accessibility, and hopefully some new features. The money we've been awarded, £500,000, sounds like a lot of money, but actually it doesn't go very far when you start looking at everything we can do and also the potential in the future. So at the back of the room and on here there are some slides which show some of the areas that we're looking at doing. So in phase 1, which is the funded phase, we're looking at improving the paths around the pond because they're the worst affected. They're the ones that have been lifted by tree roots and need some attention. There's also work to the pond, and that includes getting the cascades and waterfalls working again. Both the pumps that are in there aren't working at the moment. The whole pond needs cleaning out, keep it fresh and healthy for the local wildlife, and also to make it look nice. And some planting around that to re-establish it as the sort of centre of the park. It is the Heritage Lincolnshire that looked at this, and they think that that is the most historic part of the gardens, because obviously around the perimeter things have changed a bit. The other element was to introduce some sensory planting. Now within the budget that's available, the designers have come up with a suggestion, which again you can see there, it's behind me at the moment, that sensory planting is around the bandstand. We've got to look as a council at something which is manageable going forward and doesn't add to the level of maintenance that we have to do. So they've taken that into consideration. There also, as part of this, is the production of a master plan for the future. So if you look at the back of the room, there's, and it may come up on here as well in a minute, there are some plans of the whole gardens, and it actually shows you different phases of work. Those other phases aren't yet funded, but that includes improvements to the rest of the paths, a heritage trail, some heritage planting. We've got photographs of how Tower Gardens used to be, sort of Victorian into early 20th century time, when the Gardens was establishing itself. The possibility perhaps there of using some of the old ironwork from the pavilion to support those plants, so maybe either in a pergola or as a trellis work. And that would link in also with the heritage trail around the gardens. We've got photographs of the gardens going back, and it would be good to be able to share those. So the thought is that we would have information points around the garden, and perhaps QR codes where people could go in and get more information. But also on those information points to actually make sure that there are some accessible features for those people who wouldn't be able to use those facilities. There's also other border planting around it outside, and the play area as well. Currently we don't really have accessible play features. So one of the ideas, and again, is to extend the play area crossways across the gardens, and actually put in place an accessible play so that everybody can enjoy those sorts of facilities. Now, as I say, those later stages aren't funded yet, but they're being drawn together by the designers into packages where the town council could potentially go out and seek external funding for those features. So, for instance, heritage, maybe heritage lottery or something like that. Accessible play, again, is another area where there's often funding pots to be found to improve those facilities. So over the next few weeks, this is out for consultation. We had an afternoon here today with quite a lot of people coming in, leaving some comments, which are really useful. But if anybody else wants to make comments, you can look and do so this evening, or you can contact us, and the displays will be out in the corridors of the building for the next couple of weeks. So have a look, give us your feedback. That will then go into the design process, so that the final designs can be presented to the council, and then council can decide how it wants to proceed. But the idea is that those designs get approved, worked up in detail, with work starting in the autumn with a view to completing that phase 1 funded section by March 2024, ready for the next season.
Okay, any questions?
Is the pump in the Tower Gardens pump, was it not replaced 2 or 3 years ago?
99, I believe.
Sorry?
99.
99. Was there no guarantee or anything with it? Because it didn't work that long, did it?
Well, it's 25.
It didn't work that long, because I can remember you having it put in and all of a sudden it wasn't working anymore.
Yeah.
What happened to the guarantee? When was the last time the pond was cleaned out? Are we going to get into that same situation again, that the pond's not going to get clean? And then we're going to need new pumps all the time?
Yeah, it is going to get clean.
Sorry?
It's going to get cleaned under this tower fund.
So it is definitely going to get cleaned regular?
Yeah.
The pond will be cleaned. Generally speaking, the pond needs to be cleaned out about every 10 years, that sort of frequency. And that's due to leaks that don't get skimmed off. We do skim them regularly, but don't get skimmed off and they sink to the bottom. Plus you've got ducts and other, so you get a build-up of silt in the bottom of the pond. With the pumps and aeration working properly, the water quality will be an improvement. So we will be looking at that. Part of because the pumps don't work at the moment, what will happen within the design stage is that will be looked at, and pumps have improved quite a lot in the last 20 years, and so the pumps that we'll be putting in as replacement will be easier to maintain than they were previously. So again, that should address some of the issues.
It's just that, you say that, just to clarify, you're only going to clean it once every 10 years?
That is...
I mean, it's a glorified fish tank with ducks,
well, I'm taking
crap, it's going to block.
From people who manage ponds, and that's what they're telling us. So,
I mean,
I'm not an expert on...
No, I was going to say, do you keep fish?
There are fish in there that people have put in there. They were not put in by East Lindsey District Council, and they weren't put in by Skegness County Council. They are fish that have appeared, let's say. I don't know the health of those fish. That is one of the things that, as part of the process, that will be looked at, and the decision will need to be made as to whether those fish are kept or not kept.
Thank you.
I'll take Edie, please.
Just looking at the sensory garden, I can see the point that you put it around the bandstand. Would it not be, I don't know if it's all fixed for the council, would it not be a better idea to put it where it's a quieter area of the park? So you can hear the water, the rippling of the water, but then on the quieter part, you could have sensory bells, and people so can touch things as well as touch the sensory.
The area around the pond actually isn't that quiet because you hear the fans from the surrounding catering establishments, their extraction units. When the pumps are working again, you will get the noise from the water cascade, which will be reasonably loud. When the designers looked at where the best place to put sensory garden was, the things that they took into consideration was where is it sunny, where would the plants best grow, what are the soil and sort of area conditions, and also how easy will it be to maintain, and also one of the benefits of it being where it's suggested is that it's actually covered by the CCTV from this building, so that helps in terms of ensuring that it remains for the future. Unfortunately, we do get vandalism from time to time in the gardens, and clearly we want to make sure that anything that's put in is preserved. So that went into the thinking from the designers.
Nick?
Thank you. Firstly, I don't recognise the name of the design company, so I assume that they're not local. But can I ask how much of the £500,000 do you intend to spend with local contractors doing this work? Or are all these contractors going to be brought in from out of town, taking out the money that's for the town out of the town?
Right, well, we're using a framework contract, which is called the SCAPE framework. Part of that contract is that the main contractor is based across the East Midlands. So they're not, the main contractor is a large contractor that isn't based in Skegness. But they, as part of the SCAPE framework contract, what they do is they try to recruit local companies as subcontractors to do work. Now, when this building was built, it actually was very, very difficult because we use the same type of contract here. It was very, very difficult to actually get anybody from Skegness. There were open days, there was open tenders, and very, very few local people actually applied for it because it's about the timing of it, when they're available, and also the scope of work and the contracts that they would have to sign up to. And so it was very difficult. So there will be an attempt to get local people involved in some of the subcontracted work. But at the end of the day, we've got a budget that we have to meet, and it will be through a competitive process.
Hope that answers your question, Nick. Any further questions? Oh, Paul.
Yeah, the sensory garden. It's not really very good for wheelchair access for people, is it? As it's going to be on the grass, and if the grass is wet, it's not really good to move wheelchairs around, and surely there shouldn't be raised beds so people in wheelchairs can actually be close to it to get the smells, the feel, etc. of the plants.
The idea is that there would be, probably can't see it on this one when it comes around, that there would be some grass corridors around through the planting, so that there is that effect for people in wheelchairs, because they'll be close to the planting there, and it'll be of sufficient height for them to have that sense. The issue about grass and that area was raised by a couple of people, and that's something that we can look at in terms of design and whether or not there's something in the grass to ensure that there is stability and that you don't get it doesn't turn into just a muddy track. So that will be looked at as part of that's good feedback that we've had today that we can pass back to them as well.
Okay.
We're here, so
thank you for that. Any further questions? No. Okay, well, thanks very much for attending this evening. It's been a very good meeting, in my opinion. I think everybody who has come and spoke about what they're doing has been very good and very helpful. Thanks very much.
There you have it, that's the town meeting for tonight, and your guess is as good as mine.